Right. So um, I'm recording at this juncture, but the class has already started. But doing it in Missouri, doing my ministerial formation in Missouri, part of the United Church in Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, do it in Missouri. There are those who expected me to look Rastafarian, yet they were perplexed with the fact that I didn't have dreads and so on and so forth. While at the same time in Jamaica, I lived within a particular culture. You look down on Rastafarians. And okay. It's almost like a culture shock in a sense. It's an ambivalence. And of course we talk about that the issue of identity. And who we ought to be. And we talk about discrimination, but it's not just between white and black people, but even within races. And the American black peoples, they are even their identities and position in the world are further challenged. Of course, in the new book that I'm writing, which is about to be released, there's a particular section where I talk about the black position in the world. And of course, when I ask you what is the Caribbean and who determines this, part of an understanding of what is Caribbean and what we do in Caribbean thinking, which involves reflecting on life. Part of that is also looking at the black position in the world, because we are not far removed from the black position in the world. Yet there is that thinking and the Caribbean attitude, where some Caribbean peoples think that we are better than. There is a certain privilege. Other persons within the Americas. But whatever the case is, Martin Oppenheimer talks about the internal colonies. The internal colonies, in the sense that the dark ghettos of the global north, the dark ghettos of the Harlems and the Kensington, the dark ghettos of the global north, the post-industrial countries of the developed countries, the US, the Canada, the UK, the ghettos of these countries. You study the demographics of these countries, of these economies, they resemble that of the global north, the global south, the Caribbean, or countries that's heavily dominated by black and brown people. And the realities and the experiences are almost identical, except that the black and brown peoples within the global north, in the post-industrial world, have access to certain kind of social program and social welfare. Yet the realities is always the same, or the position of the black man, the position of people in the Caribbean. And when you look at Caribbean history, it was always to keep the Caribbean with uncompetitive. And wherever a Caribbean country seemed to rival that of their former master, then of course, what happens to that particular country? You look what's going on with Cuba and Haiti and Venezuela and so on and so forth. But anyways, those are some of the. But whatever the case is, I will draw comparison. But in studying the Caribbean, we must not think that the socioeconomic realities of the Caribbean is far removed from the socioeconomic realities in the global north, or wherever you find a black and brown people. I say to you, the movie Life and Death by Jamaica Kincaid, which is Jamaica Kincaid or Stephanie Black. I think it's Stephanie Black. because the book A Small Place is written by Jamaica Kincaid um, about the socioeconomic reality in Antigua and how structural adjustment policies of the 1970s and 80s and the 1970s, 80s, and 90s helped to create dependency and lack within Antigua, or the socioeconomic realities of Antigua. That movie, which is about Jamaica, was taken from and based off the book about Antigua, which shows the connection between Caribbean experience and the realities of post independent countries. Anyway, we will get into some of that. But welcome to Caribbean Thought again. I said we were going to take a quick break until we have a full class, and I was just speaking off the bat. Of course, we'll talk about Frantz Fanon in this class. Frantz Fanon is a powerful figure that if you have never been introduced to Frantz Fanon before, I would have said, wow, that is a travesty if you have never been exposed to Frantz Fanon. But you know, one of my dissertation advisors, Martin Oppenheimer, said, wow, you're teaching Caribbean thought at Jamaica Theological Seminary, Renaldo. I thought Jamaica Theological Seminary is a conservative school. And I'm like, yes, but a course like this should be taught in every school in the Caribbean thought, especially because Caribbean thought looks at currents that have come to shape the Caribbean. And as Caribbean people, we have to be skeptical of some of those currents, because some of those currents have been strategic in the ways in which they have created the dynamics of the Caribbean in relation to anything else in the world. But this is a very important course, I believe, which will help to challenge your mental juices. But we will stop here quickly, and we have 17 students in the class. And I am going to wait let me see what time it is. I'm going to wait. It's 7:30. Okay, so we should start at 7:30, but let me see if I have everybody here. We may have everybody. No, not yet. We're going to wait for 5 more minutes. Check if there is any email from any students, because I think the other day, I think they were on Monday, some students were trying to join the class and have some difficulty. So let me check that. Do we have class today? Oh, somebody just sent me a text requesting access to class. Oh yeah, there's a Janelle Campbell that's seeking the link to class. Oh, and I made a very important point. Oh, okay, thank you so much. So, okay, so that is Kamori. I read your paper. Very good. Thank you. It was quite interesting. This is what, okay, I have an idea. That's why I don't even want to go over the resume, the syllabus with you guys, because I have an idea to put you guys in groups. And I never did it last semester, but this semester, I have an idea to put you guys in groups of 5. Okay, so we must probably, but I don't know, because the class keeps growing, because they sent me a list with 23 last week, and then 3 more students joined the class. Then today, another 3 more students in the class. So the class keeps growing, and you know, from 23 to 27, that's a lot. That's like a group to itself. But my goal was to have 5 people, 5 groups of 5. If the class goes to 30, then we'll have 6 group of 5. But that's the idea, to have 5 group of 5, and then to identify 1 or 2 Caribbean searching on the Caribbean island. And when you put at each, we could do use two weeks to do that. Well, we save I'm still working on some of the requirements. But let me see list. Is this thought lecture 6 complex Caribbean thought lecture exploring the islands of the Caribbean. I've already done this, and I have a lecture and the information prepared for you guys. But I said actually to make it more interesting, I should send around a sign-up sheet and ask you guys with a particular date, and then have you guys only five students can sign up. Only five students can sign up for those for a particular island. Once that group reach its maximum, you have to join another group. So I mean, we could do that. Um, and then that's how we could formulate the groups. But so there's Haiti, there's Cuba, and if say so, what you'll be required to do as a group, I will would be to talk about the socio-political economy of each island. Like say for example, Haiti. You talk about the religions in Haiti, demographics, the history, and the current position. I mean, that could be it. If you want to add anything else. Oh, and a main thinker. I'm going to add that main thinker. There we go. I'm going to add a main thinker. So that is what I'm thinking about doing in terms of the groups. So to have 5 groups of 5, and each group present on a Caribbean island. So what you're going to say, if it's five groups, it will be 5 Caribbean islands. Any island that the groups don't present on, I will present on those. Okay. But you have Haiti, Cuba, Dominican Republic, Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, Barbados, Guyana, Martinique, Cayman Islands, Belize, Grenada, Puerto Rico, Suriname, so on and so forth. So yes, I think that would be one of the group work that you guys would have. That will be the group work I think that I would want you guys to do. What do you guys think about that? What do you guys think about that?
Oh,
What do you guys think about that?
Good idea, sir.
Guys, I was
sir?
supposed to have your screens open. Right. What do you guys think about the group assignment?
Yeah, I said good idea, sir. I responded.
Okay.
Oh, you think it's a good idea? Okay. Okay.
So it look
Good. So
like
you
it
guys
can
all
work,
agree. You
man.
guys, all right. Good. So what it can work. We're going to do that. So in this class, before we finish the class today, we are going to establish the groups. Everybody's having terrible internet connection. Okay. So we're going to establish the groups today. I'm going to send around a sign-up sheet. Well, not sign-up sheet, a group, um, uh, a question, or I'm gonna. Oh, sorry, I'm gonna create a break group, and each of the groups will be assigned a particular island, and you guys just choose the island. Depending on how many islands, but depend. So I send it around. You guys choose the island, and that will be the groups. And then I would probably use 5 minutes for you guys to just the class, but we won't do that as yet. Okay, so that's the first thing. Um, so any dissension? Anybody don't like the idea?
Hmm.
Dion, you don't like it?
Do you have another option? You have an option, you said? Did you say? Or?
If you have another option,
Yes.
well, I mean that would be a that would be a midterm work, actually. That would be a midterm. That would be for midterm.
Okay. Okay.
Introducing an essay, you guys do a group
Okay.
presentation.
I'm sorry. It's all right. I
And
guess.
yeah, and it's probably going to be exciting. And I would love
Yes.
to see you guys
Oh,
do. Um, all right, yeah, make it creative, make it creative, make it fun. You guys are students of the 21st century, so utilize 21st century technology. Um, and but okay, so that's we're gonna do that later on. So right now it is 6:50 in Jamaica, right? Yes. So at about 8 o'clock, we're gonna take a break, and then when you come back, we're gonna do the breakout rooms and have you guys choose that group. Now that group will be the same group that you will use throughout the course. If there's any other group work, actually no, we should make it fun. Do something else because I think I want to do one more thing in the class, another group work, which I'll tell you about that later on. All right, but that's about it for now. Okay, guys, we're going to move into so there are some of you who did not get a chance to introduce yourselves, and we're going to use the chance to do so. Of course, you guys will have other opportunities to over the course to get to know each other, which is very important for a successful class. So some of you didn't get a chance to introduce yourselves, and I would love to provide an opportunity to get to know you guys as well. So um I'm gonna who wants to go first? Who did If you didn't get a chance to introduce
Me,
yourself,
sir.
now is the time to do so. Who wants to go first? And by the way, this is what we are asking you to do. Tell us your name, what major you're doing, what's your major here at JTS, what do you hope to get out of the class, and what do you plan to do with your degree? Kimori, go ahead, Kimori.
Good evening again, everyone. So my name is Emily Brown. I major in guidance and counseling. What do I intend to do with my degree after finishing? I love helping people. I love to encourage and to motivate. So I believe I'm going to go into the school system also help with ministry because I work in ministry at church. So use it to enhance the family and that ministry that we have at church. For persons who may be having issues and stuff like that. What was the other question, sir?
Um, but I didn't. You know what? You're very low. So let me publish my device. Let me hold on a second. I'm not hearing you clearly. Um, I am going to put my speakers on so that I can hear you. You're a little bit. I don't know if it's my system, but for some reason you sound a bit low.
Okay, sir.
You're low for me as well, Camarisa, I think.
Oh, I can hear
Oh,
Avril very
oh,
clearly.
you can hear Avril. All right, hold on a
Avril
second.
clearly. Sorry. Ugh. So
Yeah,
yes.
you're low. You are low, Camry.
All right. Go ahead.
I heard any better?
Yeah, a little bit.
All right. So let me start over. My name is Camry Brown. I major in guidance and counseling. And what would I do with my degree at the end of achieving it? Um, I am passionate about people. Um, I love to encourage and to see people maximize their full potential. Also, I would use it to enhance the health and family life ministry that we have at church, to provide support for my fellow church family and community members.
That's good.
Another question, sir?
What do you do? Are you a full-time student, or what do you do in your daily life?
Sir, I'm a part-time student and I am a customer service representative.
Okay, that's nice. That's nice.
Thank you, sir.
What do you plan to gain out of this class, this particular class?
Well, sir, to have vast knowledge, to basically learn new stuff and to improve on what I would have already done.
Give me some use. Give me a use. What is Caribbean thought? Why I read your submission and it was quite interesting. If I could find it, you you said as it relates to what is Caribbean thought. I'm sorry for putting you on the spot, but I said
Yes, sir, you
since
are.
I know I put you on the spot, but I found it quite interesting that your response, it was quite terse, but you quite to the point. I'm waiting on my phone to bring up your response. Here we go. You said I can actually bring it up on my computer, but that's fine. Caribbean thought consists of the Caribbean Sea and its island and surrounding coasts, as defined by the Caribbean Community, CARICOM. CARICOM comprises 15 member states and 5 associate members, and the definition includes all islands in the Caribbean Sea, plus mainland territories like Belize, Guyana, Suriname, and French Guyana. That's so your definition comes from CARICOM.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, great. Okay, good. I hope when you look back at the end of this course, I'm going to ask you, what is Caribbean thought or Caribbean?
Okay, sir.
I'm looking forward to your answer. Yes?
No problem, sir.
You're right. Okay. All right, who else? Who is next?
Can I go, sir?
Yes, Danielle.
All right. Good afternoon or good evening, everyone.
Good
I'm
evening.
I'm Danielle Prendergast Shattuck. I am a social work student, part-time. My full-time job is a teacher of Spanish.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, that's very good. Very
All right.
That's good. That's
Yes.
good.
What do I hope to do with my degree in social work? To come out of the classroom, long and short of it. Still would like to work with children, just not in a classroom setting.
Yeah.
What do I hope to learn from the course Caribbean Thought? Well, on hearing the name Caribbean Thought, what comes to my mind is how we think as a people, what influences our thoughts, our way of life, our culture as Caribbean people. So I'm hoping to learn about that, to learn more about that. And I think that's it.
If I were to ask you, what is the Caribbean and so where is the Caribbean and are Caribbean people Americans? How would you answer that question?
Repeat the question, sir.
What is the where is the Caribbean and are Caribbean people Americans? How would you answer that?
Caribbean people are Americans, technically, yes, because we are in the Americas.
Okay.
So I would say yes, based on that, in that context. Yes.
Yeah.
And the Caribbean, I think, is an area really that was or that is made up of countries that were once colonies.
That were once colonies. So that's
Yes.
wait, so once
That's just my thought.
Oh wait, so you tell me you don't have any colonies in the Caribbean or in the Americas today? They're all freed or independent?
So that's a good question, and honestly, I haven't a clue.
Okay, one of these students might be able to help you to answer that question. Who wants to go next and help?
Can't try answer, sir.
Good evening, sir.
Who wants to go next? Who's that? Who said that?
Sarnia, sir.
Okay, go
Yes,
ahead.
sir.
Welcome to the class, Sarnia. And thank you for that.
You, sir.
Thank you, Danielle. There's no right and wrong answer here. Okay, this is all right. Thank you for that.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, man, you're good. Sarnia, you go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sarnia Rowe. I hail from the parish of Portland. I
wish I could say I'm a final year student, but I'm a second year theology student. Sir, what was the other question? I don't remember all the
What do you
questions.
hope to gain from? What do you hope to gain out of this class?
To learn more about the Caribbean and its people, our history, where we're going from here, what's our destiny as a people in the Caribbean.
Oh, why is it important to know that? But you have said
Uh,
that what you have said is really important. Who we are
Sir,
as a
as the
people.
saying goes, if we don't know where we are coming from, then we are bound to make mistakes that our foreparents made that kind of hindered us as a people.
You know, Sonia, earlier today I was looking for a book. I was actually looking for. I just relocated to a different place, and my books are still packed up. But I was trying to find this book. You can't see it
No, I
because of
can
the.
hardly see it.
I apologize because of the. But the book is called "The Location of Culture" by Homi Bhabha. A very good book, which is on the syllabus. If you guys can get it, that would be great. But anyways, but while searching for it, I found another big book, African Sociology Towards a Critical Perspective, in my library of books, and I didn't even realize I had this book. So I started reading this book. It's again, it's called African Sociology Towards a Critical Perspective. It's the collected essays of Bernard Makozwe Magubane, and it's published by the African Renaissance series, whatever they're called. But anyways, African sociology. But it was quite what was quite interesting when I was reading it. They made a very important point on it's on one of the chapters. It's called "Crisis in African Sociology." It says history is neither mere action nor vertiginous freedom nor frivolous creativity, but it is the persistent attempt to do the best we can with the knowledge of the moment. The knowledge of the moment.
Okay.
It is the persistent attempt to do the best we can with the knowledge of the moment. You know, sometimes you know, kids growing up blame their parents. I
Mm-hmm.
think I wrote an article. I could have been a Serena. I could have been a Usain Bolt. But some parents dissuade their children from pursuing certain dreams, and they raise their kids in a very harsh way, um a way that is devoid from the understanding of developmental psychology. But anyway, whatever the
Mm-hmm.
case is, for example, I said like some parents were my the discipline was brutal in some households. Okay.
That's true.
And then you look at what pertains today in certain communities,
Mm-hmm.
where children are very violent, and then you see the socialization that people are exposed to.
Yes.
Um, but I said to you, say, for example, the way in which my parents disciplined us and the way how we were grown, part of that stems from how
How they
they
were
were,
grown.
and they
Mm-hmm.
were deliberately exposed to a kind of education. They were deliberately exposed to a kind of discipline and knowledge.
Yeah,
Okay, which continues to influence the black and brown position today.
that's true.
Uh, so you said that it's important for us to understand, to know to understand where we're going, so that where we're going we can be part of life, part of society, so that we can compete in this very competitive world. So, but it's very important. Now, the book continues. He says, if we are told that truth lies in the poor, it simply means that the falsity of society lies in its oppression which, however, much it is masked by idealism and argumentation, it revealed in the poorest of the poor. Anyways, but the point I'm getting at here is this, that history is neither mere action nor frivolous creativity. It's the persistent attempt to do the best we can with the knowledge of the moment. Okay? The persistent. It is not static. Okay? It is not static. It is something that you have to revisit and
Yeah.
that you have to consider. And of course, this particular course considers will delve into that. We consider history, but it's not just looking at history, but it's looking at our reality, so that we are informed about the future. Okay. But thank you, Sania.
Okay, sir.
By the way, any Caribbean, any colonies in the Caribbean?
We have U.S. Virgin Islands, British Virgin Islands. We have Aruba, Bonaire, Curacao, Saint Martin, ruled by the French, the Dutch, and people from Netherlands.
I mean, any colonies not post. I mean, some of
Not
those
not
are.
not those that are ruled by
What about, right? I mean, current ones right
colonizers.
now. Puerto Rico, yes. That's a
Puerto Rico,
territory.
yeah.
Is that a territory of the U.S.?
Yes, yes.
Correct. Yeah. Definitely. What about Cayman Islands?
British Virgin Islands.
British.
Right.
Cayman
And
Island.
yes, Cayman Islands. When Jamaica got independent in 1962, before Jamaica got independent in 1962, the Cayman Islands was a colony. Well, was a parish of Jamaica. Jamaica had 15 parishes. But after Jamaica got independent in 1962, well, Cayman did not want to get independence. They wanted to stay a colony of Britain. So, so Cayman separated from Jamaica, and so so Cayman Islands continue to have a governor today, and is a colony of Britain. Okay, right? Okay, and who is next? Who wants to go next?
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Julian. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. My name is Jillian Robinson. I'm a second year student majoring in guidance and counseling. Caribbean Thought as a course is pretty new to me in terms of what the content of it is, but just from what we have spoken about already and from what I know of the nuanced sociological culture of the Caribbean, my hope is to understand that a little better, to get a deeper understanding of the complexities of what has shaped our region, our thought processes, our culture, the intellectual landscape, to explore what impacted it, because I think it's important for us to understand why, as a people, we operate the way that we do. And I think a lot of it comes from, or has come from, has perpetuated through generations from our ancestry, and those things, those other bodies that might have impacted how we operated. So I'm just hoping to get a deeper understanding. Overall, I'm doing guidance and counseling because my passion is really helping to support people in wellness and wholeness, and managing all parts of who they are and their mental health. And in order to get the degree to satisfy that, this is the course I have to do. So honestly, that's where I come.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Thank you. And who wants to go next? We're gonna go through quickly the next couple of hours, so that we can get through, and then begin looking at the syllabus quickly, and then take a break and have you guys sign up for your groups. But who wants to go next?
Sir, good evening, everyone.
Hi, Doreen. Good evening.
I am Doreen Williams. Yes, sir. Good evening. I am a second year student doing social work. I I am from Clarendon. I work with the Ministry of Health, and I hope to, when I get this degree, to continue working to the Ministry of Health, helping persons, going through whatever situation, in terms of health. Also, Caribbean thought is a better understanding of Caribbean, who the Caribbean people are in terms of their culture, their religion, and so on. Because as a social worker working with different people, you may not know where you might end up, being a social worker. So incorporating all of that into my study would definitely help.
Hello, Doreen. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Sorry, you were muted. I could
Yes,
not
sir. You
hear.
hear me?
I can, but something is wrong with you. Something is wrong with your device. There's a lot of static coming through.
Oh, I'm having internet issues. The internet is unstable.
Okay. All right. But what were you saying towards the end, just now? Okay,
Sir, could
Doreen.
you please repeat your
Okay, we're gonna move on to another student. When you get better internet, I'm gonna come back to you because we are having difficulty hearing you. Who wants to go next? Who have I not heard from? Marsha Swaby. Have I heard from you yet, Marsha? Marsha, did I hear from you? And there's also
No,
Dave.
sir.
Marsha, yes, welcome to the class, Marsha.
Thank you
How
for
are you?
having me. I am good.
Good, good, good. What are your first, second, third, or fourth year student?
Wish I was a fourth year.
What are you? What student are you? What year are you?
I'm a second year student doing guidance counseling.
Okay. What do you hope to achieve from doing Caribbean Thought?
Well, sir, it's my first time hearing about this course, but I'm here to learn whatever it has to offer. I realize that there's a lot of history about the Caribbean. I'm not really a history fan, but I would like to learn more about our history in the Caribbean. So, yeah.
Well, it's not really Caribbean history, but of course we are going to do some history indeed. In fact, history is very important. In
That's
fact,
true.
what we say in this history, we say the Caribbean is an invention. And so the Caribbean is invention of the stemming from the 1960s or before that, and which plays a part in terms of the reality of our position today. What must we be, and how can we learn from this invention, and what must we be tomorrow? We said that the Caribbean, we are uncompetitive, lack of innovation in some senses, but we but have been very creative in a sense to be able to withstand some of the challenges of our vulnerability and economic reality in order to still have the kind of influence that we have. But one of our textbook, which is neoliberalism, globalization, income inequality, poverty, and resistance, you will hear me write in the preface of the book that when you hear or think of the Caribbean, you think of sun, sea, cannabis, Bob Marley, irate people living out their best dreams, desires, and life. When people, but the book challenges this very motif. The book challenge the very motif. And of course, there are people who will say if you, as a Caribbean person, you go to another country, In fact, I was having a conversation with somebody there, with my neighbor, and I said to my neighbor, I was at the tennis court playing tennis, and the gentleman from Bahamas came to, or Barbados, one of them, Bahamas, came up to me, and he introduced himself to me. I said I'm originally from Jamaica. He said he's from Bahamas, and he said that of course, whatever. I mean, we exchanged pleasantries, and then I went back home and was telling my neighbor, oh, I just met someone from Bahamas, and he was saying the person I was speaking to was an American. The American said, what is he doing? What is he doing here? And that's always the case. What are you doing here if you're from the Caribbean? Especially for people not fully exposed to the realities of the Caribbean. You know, and I say, when you talk about the Caribbean, there are some places that you are told not to go in the Caribbean, but there are other places you are told to go. And when you talk about the Caribbean as a paradise, and the places and the funding and the money that is spent on those tourist places, okay? And we talk about the reality of the Caribbean and how the people are divorced from this paradise that many people kill themselves in the post-industrial country to go to for relaxation and so on and so forth. But there are those people that they don't, for them, it's not paradise. For people who live in the Caribbean, it's not paradise. And then when you watch the film Life and Death, the film is done in a particular way. When it shows the reality of the tourist and the ways that they're always smiling and being treated as kings and queens by the locals. And then when it switches to the local places and the spaces and where the black and brown people normally occupy, whether here in the US or in the Caribbean, paradises, it's no paradise for them. Although, especially, well, not for a lot of people who continue to experience poverty. But then I might say poverty is different in the Caribbean as it is in the US. But nonetheless, we know what we're talking about generally when we speak about the reality of the Caribbean and what have formulated those realities. So it's very important to study. You know, when I came to the US, I went to the University of Pennsylvania, and I didn't go to Penn State. I went to UPenn, which is one of the 6 Ivy League colleges in the US. And it was never my intention to do so, but God would have it that I got in to University of Penn. But I didn't know what I wanted to study, but while doing research, I did cinema and globalization and watched Life and Death, but I was intrigued by the wealth. Every time I would travel the US and go back and travel the world, go back to Jamaica, I was intrigued. And then I started reading people like W. Rostow that talks about the stage of development. If countries plug themselves in globalization, in neoliberal globalization, if countries were to follow the stages of development, okay, then they are supposed to experience wealth. But the Caribbean, but when you come like what is going on in the US and they should experience a kind of modernity. But when you and a kind of development, but here mine was like, that's not what's happening. If globalization was supposed to be the sine qua non, the ideal of development and growth and development, why is it that the Caribbean and Jamaica and many places in the Caribbean why is it that they are devoid of the kind of growth and development when they had done all that they needed to have done in order to get to the next level, especially starting from 1957 when Jamaica found bauxite and was on par with Singapore, having GDP levels of 5.7%. Bauxite and the bauxite has not resulted in the kind of development, the kind of profits and gains Of course, the book that I read from earlier talks about that. So it's important for us. We don't want to make the same mistakes of the past. Of course, in this course, we will delve into those missteps. Okay, we will delve into that. And we will, as we begin to understand Caribbean and Caribbean reality. So it's very good that you would mention that you bring that, Julian, that you would talk about the issue of what pertains in looking at history and how history is important to inform our future and present reality. Okay, who is next? And of course, by the way, that is the idea behind this class, That is the idea, is to look at the strategies behind what has created the places and spaces that people occupy, that help to determine the dynamics of your life in relation to all things. We talk about why some people don't have generational wealth. Okay. And of course, when you study Karl Marx challenged, he was like an iconoclast, an image breaker. He challenged Adam Smith, capitalism, the wealth of nations, because he was saying the wealth of nations didn't come from hard work. Capitalist societies, wealth and development didn't come from hard work. It came from a kind of strategy based on theft. Of course, Christopher Columbus, when you look at our textbook, Neoliberalism, one of the topics, it says from Columbus, from Columbus buck up to the 1990s. Okay. From Columbus buck up, because we're saying that it was a theft. But to the Europeans, it wasn't a theft, because for them, it's not a theft. It is for them it was normal, because if the European did not discover it, it is not discovered, because they have the privilege of doing so. Yes. But anyways, let's continue. Who is next?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dane Charles. I am a final year student in doing guidance and counseling. I am a teacher, and with my degree, I am hoping to enhance my role as a teacher in regards to helping my students develop emotionally and socially, as well as understanding their various behaviors. From this course, I am hoping to gain a deeper knowledge and appreciation for the diverse perspective or influence Caribbean culture and identity.
Where are you from, Dane?
I am from St. Lucia.
St. Lucia. I've been to St. Lucia, very amazing island. What's going on in St. Lucia these days?
Nothing much.
What do you mean nothing much? I know some of the other Trinidad is at one time, Trinidad never had the kind of crime and violence that Jamaica was experiencing. Now in Trinidad, crime and violence has become a major issue. Is it the same thing in St. Lucia?
Yes, it has. There has been, especially the town, Viewport area, there has been some gang violence happening last year.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And of course, I know St. Lucia has a very interesting history. And I think some of the old timers there still speak a form of French. Yes?
Yeah, French Creole.
It's not Haiti that have French Creole. While staying there, I discovered that yes, some people speak a kind of a French Creole, because they had their influence with the French, because
French.
that one, right? And many
yes.
You would know that. And then of course the English took over after that, and of course English is the official language.
We use both.
Both. Okay, great.
All right.
But thank you so much. I appreciate that. So when you're in the group, when you do the group work, I won't put St. Lucia for you. I mean, you'll have to join a different group. You can't join the St. Lucia people.
Okay, sir.
All right, thank you so much. Okay, who wants to go next?
Good afternoon, sir, and everyone.
Good afternoon, Javon. How are you?
I'm good, sir.
Great.
So I am Javon Henry. I am a second year theology student. And what I would like to get from this course is a deeper understanding of the Caribbean and and the effects it has on us as a people, based on what I really don't know much about the course, but based on what I've been seeing so far, I gather that this course will help me to understand the Caribbean and the many factors that help to shape the Caribbean as it was, and probably also what we can do going forward to basically bring the Caribbean to where we want it to be.
Thank you so much. I appreciate. Yes. Of course, this is a facilitatory course, a course, and of course, we are part of the 21st century. At my hope is not for my hope is that you the student, and I hope you get a chance to. I'm recording this class, so you guys will get to hear your responses. It's what it is you are looking for in this class. But I hope the expectation is not for you to look to the professor to provide the answers you're looking for. Because as I said to you, you come to the learning process not as tabula rasas, as blank slates, but you come to the learning process as adults, as individuals who have lived lives and have an understanding, have stuff. Okay, and it is important for you now to use what your experience is to facilitate your development and your arrival at truth. So that part of the responsibility and the expectation is for you to do research and to do reading. You have to read for this course. When you come to at this level, it involves a lot of reading. And so you will be exposed. I oftentimes tell students in other classes at other universities that I've had to help or teach or whatever, or at students I advise here in the US. I've oftentimes tell them that you're reading for your degree, okay? And you might have heard that you're reading for your degree. It's okay, and at this level, it involves a lot of reading, a lot of consumption, and so therefore you have to learn the art of speed reading, and also the ability while still and you don't remember everything you have read, but the important thing is knowing where to find information and how to access information quickly, especially in the 21st century. The access of information. I mean, information is so easily accessible today and then you have to be able not only to be able to access information, but to be able to critique the information you are receiving. That's why critical thinking is important. Okay, critique the information. So, for example, I talk about what's going on in Russia, where many Russian citizens are not even as aware as to the lie that is being told to them about the Russian invasion. They are being told after the fact, and in some of these countries, the truth is maligned and corrupted. We talk about fake news and misinformation. So it is very important for us to come to develop our critical thinking skills as we approach the course and to be able to access information readily and quickly. So of course, my expectation is that you will read widely and to come to the course with ready to engage and or to follow the professor as I make certain powerful deliveries about various topics. Okay. All right, but thank you so much, Javon. Who is next? Who is next? Anybody else? I think that's about it. That's 21. Oh, that's 20. All right. So that's it. That's it, guys. All right. So we was so okay. Anybody else? Oh no, I don't know Nevia. Navia, I've never. Okay, Navia, welcome to the class. Navia, sorry, help me with your name, please. I apologize.
Good evening, sir. Good evening, everyone. My name is Nivia Fenelon. I am a St. Lucian as well. I'm in my
Okay.
third year of the guidance counseling, and a teacher by profession. This class seemed to be very heavily content, and I would like to understand the information that will be presented so that I would be able to apply it appropriately. And what I hope to do with my degree is to become more efficient as an educator, particularly with the 21st century learners that we have. They have absolutely no clue as to Caribbean history, and there is quite a generational gap between then and now. And I feel like I'm in the middle, and this degree will help me to do something about it.
Yes, yes, Nivea. Yes, and let me say this again. We will delve into Caribbean history a bit. Not, we won't, because it's not a Caribbean history class. However, we will delve into Caribbean history. We will look at, and I will distribute some resources, some materials that we're going to be reading from that looks at several Caribbean thinkers, C.L.R. James, Walter Rodney, how Europe underdeveloped Africa. We will look at Stephanie Black, Louise Bennett, Bob Marley. We'll watch some films by Bob, talking about Bob Marley and Rastafarianism. We will definitely delve into some thinkers that have helped to facilitate this kind of Caribbean thinking. Louise Bennett is quite a powerful person who we have to consider. V.S. Naipaul as well. Ramesh Ramsawan is another person who we will look at. Rex Nettleford, yes, Edward Siaga, and Nelson Mandela. Actually, I was reading a book written by, it's called the Social Origins of Democratic Socialism in Jamaica and by extension the Caribbean, which is a very good book. Which when I was in Jamaica the other day, I went to the library to check if you guys have the book. The book is not in the library, and I'm like, oh my God. Jamaica in Crisis, the PNP and Radicalism, the Progressive Accumulation of Capital, Charting National Popularism. Very good book. And at one class, we're going to delve into this book a little bit. So I'm going to lift up some points from this class as I talk about the social origins of democratic socialism and not just in Jamaica, but throughout the Caribbean from the 1940s, but mostly in the 70s. There were, especially in the 70s, a strong drive towards populism, especially which in a sense, it's the resurgence of populism started in 2016. Okay, and in various countries, but it's quite interesting when we talk about democratic socialism, when we talk about Maurice Bishop of Grenada, okay, and with the People's Revolutionary Army in Grenada, okay, we talk and what's happening in Cuba with C.L.R. James and Walter Rodney, that the 1970s were a very important period, just as the 1940s. And when we talk about Reaganomics and trickle-down economics, that was part of the economy, the economics of Edward Siaga and the Jamaica Labour Party government. Okay? And when you start to go to Trinidad and they look at the two kind, what separate the barriers they upon the government. Okay? And he was mainly Indian, and how and what pertains in Trinidad, but what he was able to create, in Trinidad. We're going to check. We're gonna visit. We're gonna go to Trinidad and we're gonna go to Barbados and study these economies and these societies and how they differ, and the reality of structural adjustment. Structural adjustment is a term that all Caribbean people should be aware of, or people in the global South. But the structural adjustment or structural adjustment policy, it's very important. And of course, Ramesh Ramsawan talks about structural adjustment. And it's not just a Jamaican experience, it's a Caribbean experience. So we will talk about that. All right, Nivea, thank you. Anybody else?
Good evening, sir. Good evening, everyone. I'm Avril Morgan Avis, and I'm a second-year student doing guidance and counseling. I think I am doing guidance and counseling because I like counseling. I like to really help people, help children, guide them in a particular way. That's basically in terms of this course. It's new to me, and so I'm trying to follow you as you go along and to learn from my fellow colleagues as to what is happening. So that's basically from me, right?
But this class, we haven't gotten into anything yet, really. We're just
just a mere discussion, and I'm hearing some things, and
yes,
you
yes.
spoke about Genesis. You spoke about something about Philadelphia, where you're doing, and you speak so much about yourself. So I'm learning.
Yes, yes. All right.
Okay.
Anybody else? Anybody else? All right, that's it in terms of introductions. So I think we have met everybody in the class. Thank you guys so much for sharing about yourselves. It's very important to understand when you are reading a book, when you read a book, you want to know about the author. You want to know his ideologies and his philosophies. That's very important. When you study the Bible, when you do exegesis, you also want to one of the ways that you try to understand the pericope, a self-contained scripture or verse, is you also want to understand Paul himself or understand the author of the script. You want to understand the scripture, understand the person, how he grew up, what are his ideas, how was he exposed, what was he exposed to, so on and so forth. That is very important when you read Karl Marx, or when you read Homi Bhabha, or when you read a particular thinker. You want to find out what is their ideological bent or viewpoint. Were they Marxist? Were they or socialist? Are they capitalist? Are they liberal? Are they conservative? Or are they interdisciplinary? So on and so forth. Part of someone's training sometimes have an effect on in terms of have interpretive value when understanding a particular theory or particular reading of someone. It's good. I try as well. If this class is important, or the first two classes in terms of getting to know people, very important. I always allow every student to introduce themselves, and I provide opportunity to talk about myself as well. It's very important that we know about each other, and that you have an understanding about who your professor is, and his style. Every professor have a different style, because that's who we are. Human beings are different. So the teaching process. So you come to the teaching process with taking nothing for granted. So I want to understand the students and their experiences, and all and of course you also want to use the opportunity to understand your professor. So this is the time for us to do so, and I spend the time to talk a little bit about what I do, because again, authority is important. If you write a book, when I was publishing one of your textbook, I wrote the book, okay, neoliberalism. When I was publishing the book, the publishers wanted to know, do you have your doctorate? Where did you do? Who were your researchers? Where did you go to school? Okay, we live in the 21st century, and unfortunately, in a capitalist society, you have to have certain connections and pedigree in order for one for one's book to be published certain places, and so on and so forth. Or in terms of you talk about reputational value, or so even in credentialing in order for schools and institutions and so on. Books. When you write a particular theory or a book or a dissertation, whatever, it has to be peer reviewed. go through several individuals have to see it, and it have to be scrubbed and reviewed before it can be accepted generally. Okay, generally, and it can be referred to as something that is before it can have reputational value. So of course, it's very important for you to know about your professor, and for your professor to know who you are. And not only that, it's very important for you to understand um, what I come with as a professor, and my experiences, and why I'm able to teach the course, and how and why I teach the course the way I teach it. Um, that is very important. Uh, and I hope that you spend the time also to do some reflections on that. But having said that, I want to now segue into looking at the syllabus, because it's very important that you understand where we're going in the course, what the requirements are, and so on. So I'm going to stop sharing this particular screen, and I'm going to go to another screen. Let me bring up the course outline. Hold on. Kevin Thought Lecture, Kevin Thought Lecture. Here we go. Share screen.
Sir, I know one more thing about you. I know your degree. I know what your degree at you is in. Your master's is. What did you do at JTS?
I did. Oh, sorry. I did theology, and my major was in theology. My minor was in counseling psychology. I mean, sorry, guidance and counseling.
Guidance and counseling.
Guidance and counseling. But I also did some master's level courses at CGST.
Okay.
While I was at JTS. So I did the MAPPC counseling program that they had, and some ethics program. So I did some master's level courses while I was at JTS studying doing the BA. I did several courses at the master's level. Yes. Yeah, it was quite intense at JTS back in the days.
I know. I've heard about it.
Yeah, and I went to JTS the other day, and anyways, I won't talk about it.
It's different. Yes, it's different.
It's there is no campus life. There was nobody there. The campus life was missing. I said, "Oh, they have a student union?" I said, "Yes, there is a student union." I'm like, "Oh." But everything seemed to be online now, and it's a little bit different. But it was exciting. We were going on mission trips to Grenada, St. Lucia. Oh, it was great. We had the mentoring ministry and the buddy programs. It was just we had a lot of people from the US. I mean, we had some professors, mission professors, but we have a lot of Jamaicans as well. It was just an amazing experience. So hopefully we can find that experience again. But anyways, now it's now 8:42. I'm gonna try and go through the syllabus as quickly as possible. And a little bit about me. Have you already heard about me? I mean, I went to Penn. So I went to JTS, then I left JTS, and I went to the United Church in Jamaica and the Cayman Islands, and did ministerial formation there, and did 1 year ministerial formation with Northern Caribbean University or something like whatever the university is called. I don't know what it's called now. But we did ministerial formation there, and then I was ordained by the United Church. I served as a pastor at Andrews Memorial United Church in Mandeville, and I was also youth minister for about 2 years before that. So for several churches, I had to travel several parishes from Port Antonio to St. James I think there's any parish I didn't serve at. So and then I went to Cayman Islands, served there, came back to Jamaica. Then I went to I step away from ministry, full-time ministry, and worked for the National Youth Service and Jamaica Values and Attitude Project as the Career and Counseling Services Officer and Deputy Manager for JAMVAT. I did that for a while, and I helped to write some of the program there. Then I left and came to the US, and I did a master's at University of Penn, it was kind of interesting. I got into Penn because I did not expect to get into Penn because Penn is an Ivy League college. I applied to Temple and I got into Temple, but someone said apply to Penn. I said no, I'm not getting to Penn. That's Ivy League. But I did. They said you're Jamaican. You guys write well, so I wrote, and I love to write. And I loved Mr. David Pearson was an amazing professor. He taught me introduction to philosophy and ethics, and he would give us credits if we write. I'm saying, well, I'm gonna get credits if I write. Yo, I'm right. So I wrote and I would submit it to if we submit to the Gleaner. If you write extra and submit it to the Gleaner, then you will get credit. So I started doing that, and they published I would write something, they would publish it, and then it was letter of the day, and I'm like, what? And I started writing and writing and writing. Next thing you know, I just developed a passion for writing after that. But I did guidance and counseling because I said, what if I'm not getting enough money as a pastor? Or that doesn't work out. At least I have guidance and counseling I can fall back on. That was my idea of the guidance and counseling back in the days. But I also did other stuff in counseling, and they used to have a certificate program in teaching, so I did that as well. So that was really good. But anyways, so that's how I was able to use my degree at JTS to do that JAMVAT thing. It was really good at NYS. And then while at NYS, I went to UWI. I did the Masters of Arts in Philosophy. Then I left UWI and then went to the US and then got into Temple, but eventually got into University of Penn as a provisional student. They said if in 6 months you get all A's and get great recommendation from the professors, you'll be a full student at Penn. I'm like, I can do that. I can do that, and I did it. And when I finished that master's, they asked me to come back to do an advanced master's, the Masters of Philosophy, which is pre-doctoral studies, which I finished and did a dissertation with some renowned professors, Rita Bernard, who did Nelson Mandela's memoir, Martin Oppenheimer, Walter Litt, Philippe Bourgeois, and we wrote the book Neoliberalism. We put it together. I was the main contributor and author, but we put that book together after the research was done. I'll talk a little bit about the book when we get into the syllabus, because the book is a very important piece of work. It was reviewed as an erudite analysis of Jamaican economic history and as a case study of the Caribbean, but it goes beyond that because it talks about resistance and it talks about Garveyism and resistance in the Americas, including the Caribbean, comparing resistance in the Americas in terms of the Caribbean and North America. And I make some critical analysis as it relates to the resistance and the global justice movement. So the new book that I'm about to release, which is part 2 of your textbook, is a very important book because in it has a lot of heavy Caribbean thought themes. And next week in the class, I'm going to read from the preface. I'm going to share the preface, some very important argument talking about the wealth of nations as we lay the foundation for the course. So I'm getting ready to do that next week. But I will trace an outline of the Caribbean, starting from Arawaks to Africans. And I will present you will have those resources available. So don't worry about that. You will have a resource of all the materials, but I don't like to jump the gun. So I'll take, okay, this is an introduction class. So you will be provided with an outline. So what I did was I traced the outline of the Caribbean and I put a timeline and the themes and the activities that signified or highlight the particular period. So we would trace the coming to be, the invention of the Caribbean. We'll trace it starting from the Arawak to Africans up to today. And you'll be provided with some Caribbean thinkers, 36 Caribbean thinkers, and the material I will provide you will look at their major ideas, their major works, their philosophies, so on and so forth. I was thinking about putting you guys in groups and having you guys do research on each of the thinkers. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to have you guys sign up for a particular island, and then one of the things that you will have to do is to also talk about a main person in that island. Say, for example, CLR James, or for Guyana, Walter Walter Rodney. If somebody doing Guyana, you could talk about Walter Rodney. Okay. But briefly, because but I have and then whatever you're not doing, I'll cover that. So you'll be provided a copy of that and with some general lecture notes. So I also have lecture notes that you will also be provided with. You will also be provided, as again, you will also have access to the lectures each week. So now that I've got that out of the way, we're going to go into the course outline. And Dion, go ahead.
Yes, sir. I was wondering because I have a headache and I'm feeling so well. So I was wondering if you're going to put us in the group or not, because I don't think I can stay on anymore. The sound and the headache.
The what?
Headache. I'm having a headache. So I was saying to you, if you're going to put us in group now, or I don't think I can wait. If you could add after, I'm not feeling well, a headache.
Okay, so all right. So you are saying that you're not feeling well, so you can't stay for the
No,
entire.
so right.
Okay. Well, if what I'm gonna do show up in the next couple of minutes. If you're not here during that time, what I will do is that you can next week when you come to class, if you're not in a group, then you will sign up for a group that has not been taken. Okay.
Okay,
So,
sir. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stay far from the device because the sound making my head hurt even more. So the more I listen, the more my head hurts. So I'm going to stay at little distance from it and to see if I'm going to be cool. All right.
oh, is something going on with your internet?
No, sir.
Oh, okay. But you said the sound, but I'm not understanding what you mean by the sound. Is it you said the sound, is it going to be a major, because you're going to have this sound every week? If I mean I'm
The
not
internet
understanding.
sometimes in and out, and the sound that comes from it.
Okay. All right. Well, I hope it gets better for you. I'm sorry about that. But let's go into the syllabus now. Let's get in the syllabus quickly. Anybody else? I see another raised hand.
Oh, sorry about that, sir. I wasn't too sure as to how you said you were going to do the group. I don't know if you want to do that after you go through the syllabus, or you want to do it now before going into the syllabus.
I'm going to do it before I get into the syllabus.
Okay,
sorry.
sir.
No, I apologize. Hold up. No, I'm going to do it after I get into the syllabus, which I'm going to go through the syllabus really quickly.
Okay, sir.
And then I'll do that lastly. Okay. All right, but let's get into the syllabus now. The course Caribbean Thought, it's a 2,000 level course. As you know, when at the academic level, you have 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000. This is a 2,000 level course. So it's not so at the same time, it's the level of the course will help to determine the work that you get in this course. Okay. So it's for 3 hours. Actually, sorry, this is incorrect. It's 6 hours. I said credit is 3 hours, but 6 hours per week because it's summer. The course focuses on and explores the diverse currents of Caribbean thought, which have influenced the development of Caribbean societies from colonialism to independence and beyond. Again, let me just say this again. The course focuses on and explores the diverse currents of Caribbean thought, which have influenced the development of Caribbean societies from colonialism to independence and beyond. Okay, that's the most important thing. It traces the history of resistance. It traces the history. So we're going to trace the history of resistance, and it examines the quest for equality and the challenge of defining Caribbean identity within this post-colonial and neoliberal globalized world. Not just within the geographic sense, but also in terms of a diasporic sense. Now, and of course, the word post-colonial is important, okay? And again, we use the word neoliberal globalized world, which is a term that you will have to familiarize yourself with. Neoliberal globalized world, which we will talk about. Neoliberal globalized come from neoliberalism and globalization. Neoliberal globalized world from the 1960s and beyond, when countries in the global south had to neoliberalize or liberalize their economies. In other words, open borders for open penetration, so that to facilitate globalization. The world was speeding towards globalization as you move towards the 1970s. Structural adjustment policy was supposed to help to facilitate globalization. And you will hear, we will talk about the fact that in the how countries, how global South countries or Caribbean countries in the 1960s were moved, how they were getting independence. But little did they know that this independence, this freedom, their sovereignty will be challenged by globally by what was going on, what was going to happen in the next 10 years. Globalization. We call that an irony. That's what we call an irony, because little did they know that while they were planning and gaining and setting for their independence so that they can be sovereign states of freed men who are charting their own course. Little did they know that they were going to, the world was about to go through a major economic shift, globalization, this one village theory. But that globalization would be the demise of the Caribbean, or would be what continue to keep down the Caribbean and keep them as what we usually call third world. So the course will trace the history, and the book, our textbook, Neoliberalism, Globalization, Income Inequality, Poverty and Resistance, is 2 books in one. The second part of the book looks at resistance, and it traces resistance. Okay, so, and of course, when you look at resistance, Marcus Garvey had his brand of resistance. George Padmore had his brand of resistance. So the course traces the history of resistance and examines the quest for equality and the challenge of defining Caribbean identity within this post-colonial and neoliberal globalized world. Not just within the geographic sense, not just within the Caribbean basin, but also in terms of a diasporic sense, moving beyond the Caribbean to consider people or Caribbean people outside of the Caribbean. And of course, one of the questions we talk about first generation Jamaicans, or first generation American, second generation American, third generation American. There's a particular reason why we do this activity, to show the lines of connection. 3 million Jamaicans live in Jamaica, while they say 3 million Jamaicans, or even more now, live outside of Jamaica. But the course, this particular course, will challenge the students to develop and express your own critical thinking as a Caribbean people within a unique way that helps to realize further the hope of a free, independent Caribbean that is bursting with hope and opportunity. But the course understands that it requires that students begin to critique and explore their own thinking in deeply esoteric and critical ways that deconstructs history and philosophy. So part of what we do in this course is to deconstruct history and philosophy. At the end, you will create your own Caribbean thought, leading to a Caribbean academic journal of young academics and future scholars. The course will make you estranged from self, but it is geared towards getting you out of your bubble and to consider issues that will make you uncomfortable. The course surveys the history and philosophy of the Caribbean and the ways in which the Caribbean has emerged as a society in the shadow of colonialism and the emergence of neoliberal globalization. It examines the central ideological currents of 20th century political thought in the region and covers broad topics such as colonialism, nationalism, Pan-Africanism, socialism, Marxism, feminism, democratic socialism, neoconservatism, neoliberalism, globalization, deconstructivism, critical race theory, strategy, and the foundations of knowledge and the hegemony of faith, economic inequality, and poverty. When I asked when I asked you guys to do the assignment on Monday, some of you, and one of the questions on that I asked was, what is the socioeconomic of Jamaica or the Caribbean? And majority of you indicated the issue of income inequality and poverty. Yes, and why is there high levels of income inequality and poverty in the Caribbean? So part of studying this course is not just studying history in a vacuum. Part of studying this course is looking at some of the issues. Yes, Fabian.
Apologies to stop you in the middle of your lecture. I was not able to log on Monday. Did we get an assignment on Monday?
Tell you what, let's talk after I complete this, okay? At
Okay,
the end of the class, we will speak to that. If you weren't here Monday and you have any questions about what happened Monday, let's speak about it after the class. Let me just quickly go through this because I want to finish this in 15 minutes and have you guys join your groups. And then by the time we wrap up, you can send me an email and I will send you in an email. But let me just quickly speak to this. So anyway, but many of you said there was an assignment. Is if you log on to your online portal, I asked you some questions for reflection. It's not graded for correction, only for completion.
Okay, sir.
One of the questions was, what is the socioeconomic context of Jamaica and the Caribbean? And some of you pointed to levels of income inequality and poverty. In fact, every single one of you pointed to the high levels of income inequality and poverty. Why is that so? That is not only the reality of the Caribbean, but countries of the global south, countries who are dealing or coming out of independence, post-colonial countries, post-independent countries. Why is that the case? And in fact, it's not just a Caribbean experience. If it is the Black position in the world today. And so that is why we consider history. Okay, it is not history in a vacuum, but it is a history that we want to consider. We want to really look back at history, and then of course, the history will be telling. And then that is why critical thinking is important to this course, because it is thinking about thinking and rethinking what was previously thought, which involves a journey back in time. Because I say to you, some of the history, well, when you study society, you study in whose interest. I think it is, okay, part of when social scientists study societies, okay, you study in whose interest. You ask those questions. And because we place value on certain things that certain people have access to in society. When we study Caribbean, we're studying society, we're studying life that within it have certain dynamics. The dynamic of life, where does that come from? And I say to you again, history is a result of the varieties of human natures and circumstances couched in privilege, position, and status. We will get to that in this course. Among the thinkers and works that we will consider throughout the course are Marcus Garvey, George Padmore, C.L.R. James. I like C.L.R. James a lot. He's one of my favorite figures. And I have a video or a tape that I'm going to share with you. I don't believe, is it the next class? Probably the next class with C.L.R. James. And an interview with Sailor James, and also a book, a lecture about his book, and talking about the subaltern. That's one term you're gonna hear me use that word over and over and over. So I'm gonna play the video next week. A video on the subaltern. It's a 15 minutes video. It's a beautiful voice. And then we're going to share an interview with Sailor James, where he talks about the Africans that came to the Caribbean, to Saint-Domingue, to Hispaniola, and throughout the Caribbean. The Africans that came to the Caribbean, he said they are, in an interview, they were of fine physique. They had to be of fine physique, because in order for them to traverse the transatlantic, the Europeans wanted the best slaves. The people couldn't come on those ships to come on all the way to come through the transatlantic in the 1700s and the 1600s all the way to the Caribbean, because half their load would have died. They had to be healthy, they had to be fit, so they get military brass people who were very educated, people who were skilled in and whose learning curve were high. Many of them were nobles and chieftain kids and so on, and they got the best of the best. And when we talk about brain drain is speaks to that issue. We'll get to that. When we talk about brain drain, but to study Caribbean is to also to look at the issue of immigration and to look at the issue of brain drain and what pertains in the world today. And the very first pages of the book, of your textbook, I talk about the issue of alien and the image of the immigration of the immigrant, of the migrant. Okay, the image and the policy of the immigrant depend on whether or not you are from the global south or from the Caribbean, or you are black and brown. Okay. As against if especially if you're going into if the travel is happening from the global south to the global north, from the developing country to develop, from the Caribbean to North America, or to Britain, or to a wealthier country. Okay, the policy is not as fair, especially when in the Americas they're doing a study that says the majority will be part of the minority. So now immigration policy will favor certain people from Anglo-Saxon countries, not from the Caribbean, black and brown people. But anyways, moving right along. But C.L.R. James talk about when the Africans came to the Caribbean. They didn't come here of their own accord, of course. They were enslaved. But they were of fine physique. We're going to talk a little bit about that. And we're going to talk about Walter Rodney as well. He's one of the thinkers we're going to talk about, because he wrote how Europe underdeveloped Africa. Part of the underdevelopment of Africa stemmed from the Caribbean. Some of the people from Africa who was taken from Africa and came here as slaves. They took some of their best and brightest peoples, their artisans, and C.L.R. James said, the people who they brought from Africa quickly learned the techniques of sugar plantation. They were so brilliant and smart and sophisticated. He talks about that. We will get into that. We're going to talk about V.S. Naipaul, who was a great novelist. His character, what he did, his resistance wasn't with sticks and stones, wasn't a physical kind of violence. His resistance against the status quo, his resistance against the dominant class and against colonialism and control was one where his characters in his book, the heroes in his book, were the little black boy from down the road who you don't usually see as heroes. That was his resistance. But we're going to talk about Frantz Fanon. Frantz Fanon says the Negro is not any more than the black man. That doesn't sound like English, but that was his resistance when, same like Louise Bennett, when she would always utilize the patois. And of course, they don't say patois is language, if you don't speak Spanish and English and French and so on, they call that Creole, you know. And people from Africa, they used to call them tribes. Language is very important. Sophisticated, okay, because tribe is not sophisticated. That's not sophisticated language. Creole, that's not sophisticated. That's not sophisticated. That's not that is those descriptions, those adjectives. They are only accorded to things European. But what you find the people like Louise Bennett would invoke her patois. That was her resistance to impose her violence, to impose a different language other than the Queen's English in public fora from the pulpit. That's dangerous. But that was, we talk about when we start to study resistance against the status quo. Resistance is not, okay, against the kind of education that you're told is higher level. But anyway, we'll get to that later on. We're gonna, so some of the thinkers that we're gonna think about is W. Benjamin, Michel Foucault. Michel Foucault is not Caribbean, but yes, we are going to consider Michel Foucault because a lot of Caribbean thinkers were influenced by postmodernists and theorists like Michel Foucault and people like Frantz Fanon, who wrote Wretched of the Earth. And I actually where is that book, Wretched of the Earth? I had it here earlier. Here we go, Wretched of the Earth. And in his book, this is one of your textbook or recommended reading. This book you will have to try and get. It's a powerful book. Wretched of the Earth. Frantz Fanon, one of his most powerful, influential texts, Black Skin, White Masks, and Wretched of the Earth, evoke the concrete and contrasting world of colonial racism as experienced in metropolitan France in the 1950s and during the anti-colonial Algerian War of Liberation a decade later. This is a powerful book. He said, the colonized man, the colonized underdeveloped man, is today a political creature in the most global sense of the term. What is he talking about? The colonized underdeveloped man, the colonized, underdeveloped man, this is the 1950s, is today a political creature in the most global sense of the term. No, there is nowhere, wherever you are still considered second class. Wherever you are, it's stacked against you. Anyway, we'll consider Frantz Fanon. You have to know him. He was able to combine or to comb psychoanalytic theory with colonialism. Walter Rodney, of course, Fidel Castro, Michael Manley, Edward Seaga, Bob Marley. Bob Marley said that I don't look to capitalism or Marxism. I look to the I and I. What is he talking about? That was quite revolutionary. That was powerful. That was powerful. I don't look to the East or the West. I look to the I and I. And he said that in a Marley movie, I believe, Who Shot the Sheriff, I believe, or Life and Death, one of those films which we're going to showcase in this class. Quite powerful. We're also going to visit Kamau Brathwaite, who talked, and he was actually the one who coined the term "the Caribbean is an invention," which was picked up by Brian Meeks and Norman Gervin in the Caribbean Reader. We're also going to briefly look at Edward Glissant and the Negritude movement. Homi Baba, Mike Davis, Nelson, and Novella Keith, they're the ones that wrote The Social Origins of Democratic Socialism in Jamaica. Now, we are going to definitely look at Kenneth B. Clark. Kenneth B. Clark. And Kenneth B. Clark wrote an amazing book, and I have it right here. I don't think I'm going to have time to do what I wanted to do later because I was going to start talking about what's the Caribbean and who determines this. And then I'm going to ask the question, where do we begin? Do we begin in the 1960s with independence? Yet, there is a paradox of independence. because we talk about granted versus taken freedoms and the reality of Haiti as against Jamaica. I mean, are we truly free? I mean, especially when you are forced to accept independence on the terms of the masters. Where do we begin? Do we begin in 1833 or in 1865 when the slaves were independent? But we weren't even told that we were independent. We did. I saw when the slaves were freed in 1833 or in about the emancipation or the abolishment of slavery or the emancipation proclamation, which came almost 30 years after the slaves were freed. Their slavery was contingent. Yet, were they paid? The slaves that were freed in 1833, who were never told that they were free. Some people died working on the plantation, and they freed, and they didn't know that they were free until 1865 when they got. And it was deliberately delayed because when the freedom came, they had to use those 30 years to get indentured laborers from China and India to come to the West Indies to work the plantation. Okay, and many of the plantation owners got money, were paid off from any loss of property from losing the slaves. But the slaves never got any money because obviously they were still property, although they were free. From 1833 to 1865, the slaves worked the plantation, but they were freed. Were they paid any money? Or when the Emancipation Proclamation was read, they left because they knew that would have happened. They knew in the Caribbean, in the West Indies, the plantocracy.
So, sir.
Yes.
Can I ask you something, sir? Sir, in regards, if you were a plantation owner back in them time, and based on everything that's happening, what would you have done?
If I were a plantation owner?
Yeah, back in them days, when I say a slave them are work a plantation without pay and then free.
Yes, but the point I'm making is that, right, they were free, but they were not paid any kind of reparation. Because if they were free, that means they should have been paid. Between 1933 and 1865, sorry, 1833 and 1865, the slaves who were free, because they were free, but they didn't know that they were free until 1865. You know that from history, yes?
Yes, sir.
Right, so the point I'm making is that the slaves were not paid. They weren't given any reparation. If any reparation was supposed to be accorded to them, we can make a plausible argument to say that the slaves between 1833 to 1865 who worked the plantation should have been freed when they were freed in 1833. Yet they were not they were never provided with any reparation, with any compensation. Only the plantation owners. Which goes to suggest that I'm saying to you that although slaves were freed, they weren't really free. They were still considered slaves or half humans or property or people not of any value when they were free. Because if they were freed men providing labor, they should have been paid.
Sir?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, sir. I just want to say this based on the question that my colleague just asked. If I'm understanding him correctly, I think the question was asked in the context of you putting yourself in the plantocracy position of what was the common thought and thinking and way of doing business at that day, in that time. It would have been the same because when he asked the question, I immediately put myself in the position and said I would have wanted, if I am of the plantocracy, I would have think the same way because I'm thinking of my best interest. It's what the freed slave do after they gain independence. Yes, a lot of things were against them. Lack of education, the concrete contract that they gave them about being tenants on their property and working their hands and feet off just to pay the rent because the rent were huge and their production was small. So it's like they were still in a slavery, and I understand the hardship at the time. But what did we use the freedom to do um, in that time? So I guess that is how I would have answered the question.
I mean, I cannot speak for the plantocracy. I can't speak for the plantation owner. What would I have done? I mean, I cannot speak I can only tell you what has happened in history and what it suggests about how Black people, Caribbean people, continue to be seen and treated. The point I'm making, so I understand the question, but it's not the question that I can answer because I don't know what. I mean, the point I'm making is that what I'm saying to you is that the plantocracy, the plantation owners, they were paid. Of course, they were paid. They lost property. The property was the slaves. And but I say to you, part of the reason why the slaves were not told of their freedom or given the freedom when they got freedom in 1833 in the Caribbean, in the British Caribbean, was because they needed time to transition from slave labor to indentured servitude. I believe that the decision to free slave in 1833 by the monarchy, by Britain, came suddenly and shockingly to some of the colonies in the British West Indies or in the Caribbean. And so what happened was that there was a delay. It was deliberately delayed. The news was deliberately delayed so that the colonies can, one, be compensated over time for loss of labor. Two, so that they so that they can also make claims against any insurance, which they were paid. And later on, I will present an article about that. There were many people were paid in the Caribbean, but the Black people up to now they haven't been paid. But the plantation owners were paid. And of course, by 1865, by the time the indentured laborers came and the news was given, then of course they left. So what would the plantation owner have done? The plantation owner didn't do anything. It was what I'm saying to you is what I'm just telling you what happened in history and how and I'm asking you, when you begin to understand the Caribbean, where do we begin? Do we begin in the 1960s, or do we begin in 1833 or 1865? But then I say to you, and I'm giving you a synopsis of what pertains in these periods. In the 1833 to 1865, slaves were freed, but they were still working as slaves. They should have been paid. Okay, all right, if they were free. But there had been no discussion about payment and about any kind of reparation for slaves. I mean, now there's been much talk about reparation and so on. So that's the point I'm making here. Where do we begin? Continuing on this same vein, do we begin during the or do we go as far back as the transatlantic in the 1500s up to the 1800s? Is that in terms of when you study Caribbean, if you ask the question, what is Caribbean and who determines this? And of course, which will take you to where do we begin, at what period, since we say Caribbean is an invention which began where, in the 1960s or in the 1830s or in the 1860s? Or do we begin in the transatlantic, which was a period that involved an exchange where Europeans had outsmarted African countries, African nations, into giving them slaves. The deal that they made with one African nation, they made with other African nations without these African nations understanding and knowing that this same deal that they have with the Spanish, another tribe, African nation had it with the Spanish. But, and of course, Walter Rodney talks about that in How Europe Underdeveloped Africa. Okay, that is how Europe underdeveloped Africa. And I say to people, when you start to study Africa, you can study, you can think about race, because prior to the 1500s, there was no talk about race. Race became a concept as they were about to start the transatlantic, or the transatlantic slavery. That's when the idea of race as a theory was introduced into the world and accepted in academia in the late 1500s and 1600s, just as they were about, as Europeans and the dominant class in Europe were about to undertake the transatlantic slavery. Okay, so that's it. So do we begin there, or do we begin when Britain defeated Spain in 1655 to take control of much of the British West Indies, including Jamaica? Or do we begin when Columbus invaded the Caribbean in between 1492 to 1494? Is that where we begin? Where they discovered the Taino people and the Arawakan tribe living in part of the Caribbean. Do we begin there? Of course, that's when we talk about tracing the Caribbean. An understanding of Caribbean will involve exploring certain time periods, yes, the 1960s, the 1830s, to the 1865, or the period leading up to the 1960s. The 1930s was a very significant period in Jamaica. Rastafarianism emerged as a religion in the by the 1940s and 50s. Reggae music was emerging in response to the Bandung Conference and the independence movement in the 1930s. It was the rise in terms of this kind of Marxist and socialist perspective. But all of these tensions in the world have helped to give rise to the Caribbean. When we start to think about the Caribbean. But so when we think about the Caribbean, when we think about this class, we will definitely delve into some of these concepts. Some of the other people we will look at is Garnet Roper, Rex Nettleford, Martin Oppenheimer, and of course the professor's work. I've written extensively, so we will talk about some of what I've written. Themes will be drawn from a selection of contemporary newspapers, columnists, talk show hosts, and the ideas behind the major international agencies and institutions which have shaped post-independent policies. The selection of thinkers and social movements to be examined will vary with each semester. The course also looks at the role music, the arts, and sports in carrying the spirit of resistance and in shaping and defining Caribbean identity. It looks at the role of music, the arts, and sports. And we will actually, cricket, we will talk about cricket and how cricket in the 1960s and 70s, West Indian cricket team, we never had a black captain. We couldn't have a black captain, and the controversy that pertains around that. So sports is very important because it also tells the story of the Caribbean. The course examines the role of the collective Christian presence and suggests a public theology priority for the church in the region, but it also considers opportunities that takes advantage of science and technology and leveraging social media and digital technology as a way to express these critical thinking ideas. Now, finally, critical thinking and Caribbean thought. We say that this course will challenge your thinking and your positions as post-colonial thinkers within the subaltern. Because as we study societies, on any given day, we are likely to be bombarded by all sorts of attempts to persuade us to think or act in certain ways. So in this course, we will practice the skills involved in critical thinking. And when we talk about critical thinking, we're talking about the process by which we develop and support our beliefs and evaluate the strengths of arguments. Now, the central goal of the course is to empower you to think more clearly and analytically about what you believe, and be more effective in arguing for your views. You will develop your mastery of various strategies for making and evaluating Caribbean arguments, and you will develop expertise in recognizing and avoiding common barriers to critical thinking, including bias, groupthink, and ideology. Throughout the semester, we will emphasize the application of course material to real-world issues. Now, what are the students' outcomes? You will have an understanding of the outline of Caribbean history from slavery to the colonial period. You'll understand the impact of that history on current reality. We're talking about post-colonial subjects or post-colonialism. Understand and appreciate the influence of key historical and current figures. Understand and appreciate how the history of the Caribbean shaped their own personal history. You understand specific ideologies that arose from the social and political realities of the Caribbean. You'll understand the personal background of influencers of thought and its impact on their thinking. You'll analyze and evaluate the actions and ideologies of select thinkers. You'll appreciate their personal responsibility to advocate for the vulnerable in Caribbean societies. You'll appreciate the role of public theology in shaping thought and addressing issues of oppression and exploitation in the Caribbean. And of course, you are going to be challenged by the dynamics, or how do you reconcile Christian mission? Yes, how do you recognize Christian mission with a colonial past that is influenced by ethnocentrism that deposes African identity? Okay. Now you should be able to connect your personal story to the story of the region. You should be able to utilize film to dissect and unveil the Caribbean story in relation to the global dynamics of the world. Now, you will submit a final essay paper that is well researched and part of current thinking among young academics towards developing a Caribbean thought journal. I will talk about that later. Well, my anticipation is that you will do an essay from a practical study that you will do. Practical study is part of exploring attitudes towards Afro-Caribbean beliefs. I'm happy that we have some St. Lucians in the class today, in this semester. The last time we did not, because I want to understand what is the attitudes towards Afro-Caribbean beliefs and identity in St. Lucia. What is the indigenous beliefs or the Afro-Caribbean beliefs in St. Lucia? Do you have any remnants of Obia, of voodoo, of revivalism? Do you have Rastafarians there? Because talk about how within the Caribbean, how Caribbean various regions have their own unique philosophies, and whether or not it is spreading throughout the Caribbean. We know that in the US, there have Jamaica revivalists. There's a strong Jamaican revivalist congregations that are all over New York, the Philadelphia, and so on. So we want to find out what about within the Caribbean? Do we find that kind of revivalist tradition in other parts of the Caribbean outside of Jamaica, and so on? So this is interesting to find out. So that will be part of your research paper. You'll have to probably do a soft questionnaire, do a 10-page interview 10 to 20 people within your community, church, work, wherever you are. Do a research among and get there to find out their attitude toward Afro-Caribbean beliefs. And then write that in a final essay paper, and your findings in a final essay paper. And of course, we have students in Canada. That's great, because we have also like Kenyatta, and we also have students in Fort Lauderdale and so on. I want to find out within the African diaspora and community, what are their attitudes towards Afro-Caribbean beliefs and tradition? How is it an important value in their life today, if it holds any value? I would like Avril could do a study amongst the Caribbean people within her community in Fort Lauderdale, among the diaspora. And Kenya could do it within his among people of Africa within the Caribbean diaspora within his area in Canada. So that would be great. We'll talk more about that. Now, and finally, you'll be able to use digital technology to transmit your critical thinking, because I'm going to give you extra credit for if you submit a letter to the Gleaner or to the Observer or to any newspaper wherever you are in Fort Lauderdale, in Canada, in St. Lucia, and it's published to the Jamaica Gleaner, or you can also, just so you know, you can submit to the Neoliberal journals. I run my own journal, magazine, websites, and so on and so forth. If you want, let us say, it's a professor, I wrote an article, I would like this to be published in the Caribbean in one of your journals or publications. I take it, I read it, give it to my publisher. If we like it, we publish it. You get credit for that. You can publish it there too. Wherever you, I'm also trying to facilitate not just thought, but expression. So I would love for you guys to submit. If you write and get a paper published, you get credits for that. You get extra marks for that. Big time marks for that. That's very important. Start a podcast. Okay. Start a podcast. Okay. That facilitate these kind of reflections. Yeah. One class I was gonna add to the syllabus, how to start a podcast, but I think that's going overboard. But I would love for you guys to do that. If you guys want to do that, we could do the project together. So yes, Prof, let's do that. Can we do a quick one class, a 3-hour class where we just talk about, okay, how do we use podcasts to communicate our ideas, our thinking, and our thinking? Yes, fine. That's what I do, and I provide those services. I'm very skilled at part, and I thought that it's part of what I want to facilitate. Caribbean people should be leading in podcasting. We are so verbose. Okay, we should have more podcasts. We are way behind in these kind of things. And some of these things are money-making things. We should be digital technology and the kind of social media technology. You know what I mean? But of course, I'm hoping that we can facilitate. I mean, if we can do that, it would be good. If not, it's not the focus of the course, but if we have any time to be able to facilitate a discussion about how to do that, or to provide you with resources about how to create a podcast for free, and whatever, it's hopefully if I have time for that, I'll do it. But I guess JTS will have to develop a course, and they want me to write a course that deals with social media and podcasting. Do we actually have a course here at Georgetown? Okay, that do with introduction to podcasting. So we already have a syllabus written out. I just probably need to send it to them. But it would be great. I'm hoping for you guys to do at the end of this course, to write articles about what's going on in the Caribbean or in the world, and to commentate on it. Okay, write a letter, an editorial or something, and get it published. You get credit for that. The student learning outcomes. Again, the students on completion of the course will be able to develop their critical thinking and tell their own story of the Caribbean people, examine the issues of identity and color in relation to Caribbean history and colonization, explore poverty and inequality. The book Neoliberalism, Globalization, Income Inequality, Poverty and Resistance. I wrote that book as well as a text because I realized that as Caribbean people, we need to tell our own stories. I realized we never had a lot of Caribbean textbooks. Like, what is going on? We have to tell our own stories, or people will tell it for you. Okay? And so, but anyways, what I did was I used the Gini coefficient. The Gini coefficient studies the elasticity of income inequality, okay, or income inequality in society. So I used the Gini coefficient that looks at income inequality. So the book looks at income inequality, utilizing the Gini coefficient. So I utilize a lot of statistics, but it won't confuse you. Okay, it's not. You don't have to study the statistics to understand some of the findings in the book. Okay, that we're going that. But I mean, we can delve into it a little bit. But if one of the ways you study income inequality, you look at it by looking at Gini coefficient. but we will explore poverty and inequality in the Caribbean as a direct result of neoliberal globalization. Because if you look at the text as they were applying neoliberal strategies in the Caribbean, the levels of income inequality and poverty were changing. So we're able to find a correlational value or a correlationship between income inequality and poverty and the application of structural adjustment policies or neoliberal globalization policies. But you'll be able to explore that. You'll be able to develop your thinking and writing towards developing a Caribbean perspective. You'll be able to trace the story of your family as far back as possible. But I mean, I don't know if you can. I shouldn't say that, but you're gonna get a project by the third week that traces your family heritage. We're going to talk about that in what you're going to be doing. It's quite interesting. When you're going to love this particular activity when it's time for us to do it, because it doesn't involve going to genealogy.com or artistry or so on. And you can do, if some of you may have done it already, that's great. But and the interview that I did with this FME history, I talk about the drawback with some gene studies. Okay. The Urban Indian Heritage Society, they will be here to do a presentation. So I will table it for that time. Anything else I need to say before I stop? You'll be able to develop your thinking and writing. You have to trace your story. So that means you have to know, you have to talk to your grandmother, your great grandmother, if she's alive. You know, that it involves a lot of conversation. Because when we talk about sources, don't rely on just everything, the written word. Also, the part of get the sources are people in your own name. Some of the information about your own life is not written in a textbook. Okay. And notice I said to be able to, your idea of the Caribbean, you should be able to create your own unique Caribbean identity. Yeah. So, and of course you want to talk with your family about who you are and whose you are and why are you, who or where you hail from, and so on. And do you have any urban Indians in your society? How far? And I notice a trend when I ask people to do this activity. They can't go far back. There's some kind of confusion and tension and disruption, some shady in terms of the line of connection and demarcation. So this is, anyways, but we're gonna do that. You'll also be able to relate your personal history with that of Caribbean history. Critically examine its impact on their family background. Critically analyze, rethink the perspectives of key Caribbean and diasporan thinkers, and analyze their credibility for today and the future. Because I'm gonna challenge the book Arab to Africans by Greenwood. Okay, because he makes certain assumptions as if Caribbean people don't have any connection with the urban Indians that were here. By urban Indians, I'm not talking about indentured laborers that came from East India, that came from China and India. I'm talking about the Indians that were here. Okay, the Amerindians, all right, the Taino people. We realized that they weren't really wiped out. Many of them still exist today. But it was important for us to have a narrative that the people, the Caribbean people that live in the Caribbean don't have any connection to the original people that are here, because that will pose problem for inheritance. It means that you can claim. When you steal something, you have to take away their ability to claim. The reason why Israel was able to re-establish their nationhood in Palestine today was because they were able to claim. Okay, based on their heritage and their identity. Heritage and identity, that's very important. The ability to claim. We'll talk more about that later on. And that's why it's important for you talk about how far back can you go. Many Black and brown people within the Caribbean, and by that I mean of African descent, or from the part of the post-colonial, we cannot go very far in terms of tracing our history, or there is always a disruption, it seems. Avril.
So listen, I can tell you love this subject. It's when you get excited and you talk about all these projects and what you want us to do, and it's rather fascinating. But remember, we have 2 months.
I know you have 2 months, and I've always, but yeah, the summer is kind of weird, but I know is with this every week is 6 hours. So
Yeah, yeah,
say for
yeah.
so next week we have a lecture that there's a lecture I normally do in the second week. The third week, the urban. By the end of next week, you will get the homework to go home for the weekend to talk to your parents and your families about your heritage. I'm going to ask you to trace your heritage. You can start doing so now, in fact, okay? But you're going to get that homework.
When would you
Where
want
do you come from? Okay, how far back can you trace your heritage? And okay, do you have any people, Taino people? Okay, and so on and so forth. It's very interesting, and some people have images. Some students have photos when they submit the work. It's quite, and then the students get a chance to share. So, and I know we have about 25 students in the class, so I know it's going to be a little bit difficult. But
that's fine, sir. And when do you want this one that you're going to? We have about 50 minutes. So this one, now you're going to place us in groups. When will this one be due?
All right. So this one will be due next week, Wednesday.
Okay. All right.
So next week, Wednesday. So you see, you have a lot of time to do that one, and it's going to be easy. To be honest, I've already done the work. All this stuff I'm asked you to do, I actually sit down and I do it. Like, I mean, there's nothing I ask you to do that I have not done. I mean, when I do, that's how I prepare. I sit down as if I am a student, and I write at the exam. The very exam I give you, I write it myself. The very essays I write. So I am very familiar, and it's something that. It's all about you. Okay, but I have to put myself in that position. But I'm going to stop right here because we're running out of time. I know I haven't talked about the instructional procedures of the class, lectures, digital and multimedia presentations, guided group work, weekly journals and interaction papers, essays and quizzes. And we will do cinematic film presentation because we're going to watch Life and Death and so on. All right. Okay. I'm going to stop here for now, and we'll pick up next week with we'll just wrap up. But I'm going to use the opportunity to go over the syllabus. Next week I'll come back and I'll finish it quickly, and then I will begin a very important lecture that I have for you. So okay, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to create a breakout group. So give me 2 minutes. You guys will just have 5 minutes to choose. So it shouldn't be long. So I'm going to give you a 2 minutes break, and then as soon as so just 2 minutes. I just need 2 minutes to set it up, and then we come back at 9:50. And when you come back at 9:50, then you'll be able to start selecting your breakout groups. And then I'll give you 5 minutes to do that, and then we come back after that, and then I'll be able to see who are the members of the group. So here we go. So you have I'm giving you a 3 minutes break until we come back at 9:50.
You're there, sir?
I am here at the groups. Okay, I published the group. There are 5 groups, 5 rooms. There are 5 rooms. Oops. 5 rooms. You can join. It's 5 to a group. The first 5. If you are the 6th person, you'll have to remove yourself from that group unless you work out with somebody else. You can work.
Sure.
I'm not seeing the group, sir. We're not seeing the group.
Publish it again. Try publishing again. We're not seeing it.
Oh, you guys not seeing the breakout rooms?
No, sir.
No, sir, I'm seeing it. It's using my phone though. It's on the left hand corner.
Yes, it's there. Just click on breakout rooms and you'll see them.
I don't even see breakout rooms.
I'm not seeing breakout rooms, not even if I click on the ellipses. I'm not seeing the option to join a breakout.
Go on your more
there
button.
It is.
There is a
there
more
it is.
button.
There it is. Click on
You
the
see it?
ellipses, Avril. Click on the ellipses.
Yeah, I did.
And
yeah, I see it at the bottom.
yeah.
All right, sorry about that. It's probably some of the devices get it a little bit different, but it should have been podcast message. You guys saw my message? Which theory? Fabian, I just saw your message. So please remember there is 2-month course and we are doing at least one other course.
Repeat that, sir.
Oh my God. No, sorry, I was reading. Sorry, I was reading out loud. I saw Jelane's response. Don't worry, Jelaine. Trust me, you know what? Your professor, I talk a lot, okay? And I have a lot of stuff in my head. I have a lot of I'm always going to school. So and I read a lot. I used to be a librarian one time. I'm always reading, I'm telling you. So I have a lot in my head. I wish I could take everything and just teach it one day. Today it took me a while. Sometimes it takes me a while to narrow down what I'm going to teach a class because there's so much going on in my head, so much I want to say, so much I want to share. But I have to remember, no, don't. I have to take my time. So I understand it's a lot, but don't worry, we won't expose you to all of these one time, and we will repeat the stuff. And usually, I might based on how much you're doing and what you're saying, we'll cut back. So if you feel as though the work is becoming too much or you're having to do too much, just let me know, please. Always, I am easy to talk to. Send me an email. Professor, I can't come to class today. I'm so overwhelmed, and because XYZ, you send me an email, talk with me about what's going on. If you believe the work, if you're doing too much or the work is too much or you can't find a resource, let me know. I will see what I can do to help you, or we have a discussion as a group, as a class, and come up with a solution. We are learning together. Okay. I see Fabian say which theory. I'm not sure why he said which theory. Probably
Oh,
something.
you were indicating that someone from the Caribbean was able to align a theory to one of the Caribbean issues that were going on. I don't remember which one of the authors you were talking about.
CLR, was it CLR James? Was it CLR James or was it what's his name? Walter Rodney? I don't remember what we were.
I don't remember, but you were making a very valid point. So I
Don't
was
worry.
wondering.
So tell you what, when we're gonna do the record, when I do the record, if you get to watch this video again, right? Because I'm gonna do this as it's recorded. If you ever see it again, if you get to watch it again and you hear me mention that, if it jogs your memory, just make a note of it and just send me an email or say, hey, sir, I remember now. Okay, so that I don't forget.
Oh, that's a good suggestion. I always watch back the video then.
Yeah, man.
So
So,
I definitely watch it back.
yes, and right. I appreciate your comment and involvement in the class. Very good. I appreciate that. Sometimes if don't let me move too quickly if you have a burning question. If you write it in the chat, more than likely I never see it until after the fact. So, okay.
Oh, okay. Because I sent you a WhatsApp message on Monday and I tell you the dilemma that I was in and asking if I could get the class in via the WhatsApp so I could join.
Can I tell you my WhatsApp is not working?
Yeah, I guess you were otherwise occupied.
Yes. No, my WhatsApp is not working. Who is that?
It's Vivina. What just happened? We were in the group and then the time went out and I came back to the main room. So is it that it is automatically recorded that that's the group that I'm in, or?
Yes, once you have this group, it's gonna, that's gonna be the group.
Okay, so it's automatically recorded that I'm in that group and that's it.
Yes, so but the thing is, some group, Cuba and Puerto Rico have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 group persons in there. St. Lucia have no one. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, that's cool. Sarnia, were you the first person to join Trinidad? Trinidad has 6 persons in that group, so we need 1 person to come out. There's nobody in St. Lucia. Guyana has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Good. Haiti has. Okay, there are still persons who haven't joined the group. So I did open up the group. I did reopen it again. So Kemori, are you there?
Sorry, you're muted. You're muted.
All right. I think did I end the breakout group? Are people still in their groups?
No, I think maybe people left. I mean, it's 11 after 10 or 11 after 9 in JA. So I think maybe people. Not sure.
Yes. Oh, probably. I'm not sure. But that's it for class today. So you guys all got your groups and have the information. Next week I'll talk a little bit some more about the group.
Yeah.
There's no assignments for you guys. If you guys if you guys need to start getting the textbook, Neoliberalism. It's available in ebook as well. There's one copy in the library, but we're going to be utilizing the textbook this semester, Neoliberalism, Globalization. I was trying to get the second textbook, which I was trying to publish the a second book, which is Neoliberalism Book 2, written by I'm not the only author. There's another author. It's myself and Martin Oppenheimer, who wrote Neoliberalism Book 2. We're trying to get that out so that you guys have it available for this semester, because we're going to be discussing a lot from that book. But it's a little bit delayed because he just published another book, which I am going to be helping with the narration on for the audiobook. So he's tied up with that. But I am still going to try and get this second book out by November 4th, this June 14th. If you guys want a copy of it, it's going to be available. But the textbook is, I needed to get Frantz Fanon's book, Wretched of the Earth. If you can, we're going to be considering Homi Bhabha's book. We're also going to be looking at Ramesh Wansawan's book, The Challenge of some of this, and The Caribbean Reader. A lot of this stuff is on your syllabus with links, so you don't have to buy stuff. And some of the stuff you can Google some of these things and get a lot of information available. But yeah, but that's about it. Thank you, guys. That's about it. I'll talk and talk and talk and talk.
All right, sir. Have a good night.
Have a great weekend. It was such an amazing, and you guys are gonna enjoy this semester. This is gonna be one of the best classes. And I'm looking forward to it. Take care, guys. Walk good. And God bless you and keep you. Thank you for this week, Lord God. Continue to help us to grow and to develop, strengthen our minds, and continue to open our path. Grant us your favor. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Good night, everyone. Good night, sir.
Yeah, man. And look out for the recordings.
Good night, sir. Good night, everyone. So you're going